Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and hit us with your comments afterwards.
Also, we have a podcast. It's in the description. Subscribe to it. We also load it up here on YouTube. So, Haberman, Middlecoff, check it out.
Oh, yeah. All right, John, the question today. Will the Raiders consider drafting Jordan Love? And before we answer that question, we have to answer the first question, which is, will the Raiders consider drafting a quarterback at all with one of their two first-round picks, or obviously maybe a pick later? What's the answer to that question?
Well, for a team that's had the same starting quarterback since John Gruden has arrived, there has been a lot of quarterback turnover, has there not?
Yeah, and
I mean,
discussion.
yeah, they've. It feels like they've brought in 17 backups over the last 24 months. They just made Marcus Mariota the highest paid backup in the league, from DeShone Kizer to Mike Glennon last year to the buzz with Kyler Murray. Now, granted, he
The
didn't make
Tom
it past
Brady
one.
pursuit.
The Tom Brady quote unquote pursuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were links that if Tom Brady would have gone to Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill would have ended up with the Raiders. So there has been multiple articles written that teams were interested in trading for Derek Carr. It cannot be argued that there has been a lot of smoke around Derek, regardless what they've said since this. I'd say definitely since Mayock and Gruden have paired up.
Yeah. It's been one of the ongoing conversations in the NFL. Is Derek Carr good enough to keep? And I think one thing we know with Gruden, he loves quarterbacking. I think he's open to it. I don't think there's any question about it. How could he not be? It doesn't mean he is going to replace Derek Carr. $7.5 million for Mariota, though, sets up an opportunity to draft a quarterback, make Mariota the starter, and try to get some value for Carr, too, if they decide to go that route. And the other part of this is look who just won the Super Bowl. And with what quarterback? And with that offense? And with the head-to-head, your boy Andy Reid has Patrick Mahomes. And if you are a team in the AFC West, it's going to be a long haul to try and climb back and win this division in any time in the near future.
Well, think about this guy. It's weird because they're rivals, but I would say Gruden's closest friend in the league is Andy Reid. They've been friends for, I think, 25 plus years. How envious is I got to beat that guy, and he's got his superstar quarterback, because what did he do? He had a guy who, Alex Smith at the time, when he made that move for Mahomes, much more established than Derek. Had been a quarterback for countless winning teams, had won playoff games, and Andy still rolled the dice. And
Andy had traded for him. It's not like Alex was just there when Andy showed up, right?
Another great point. Had not only traded for him, loved him. Like, they didn't, even when he traded for Mahomes, he didn't kick him to the curb right away. Alex actually went on to have his best season the year when Mahomes was his backup. But I think it gets back to, in Gruden's 2 years against the Chiefs, 0-4, and really not close at Arrowhead, Guy.
This was going into the game this last year, so this is back November. Jack Del Rio, this is a Trey Wingo tweet, but Del Rio said that Carr doesn't like cold weather games. And then they had this stat of kickoffs under 40 degrees, 51% completion, 9 total QBR, which we know is not good. We'll go into this game, John. We'll go into the film room, the Ham film room, for one of the 2 interceptions in this game. Oof.
Can you read to me the records down there?
6-5 Raiders, 7-4 Chiefs. So this was a huge, huge, huge game for the Raiders.
Yeah, I think because the Raiders ended up falling apart as the season went on, people forget when they went into this game, they win this game, they would have been tied for first in the division with the team, ironically, that ended up winning the Super Bowl. But, Guy, they lost 40-9, and he was atrocious in that game. It's not even arguable right now when he plays in cold weather and when he plays in Kansas City, which seems like every time the schedule comes out, they play Kansas City at the end of the season. And I don't know if you've done some geography checks with weather.com. It's cold in Kansas City, probably about past November 1st. And so when you're playing them in late November, mid-December, it's going to be a problem. And the numbers speak for themselves. And I'd say this, Guy, the Dave Gettleman Award, the eye test looks worse than the numbers, if you can even say that.
Yeah, 12 for 21, 152. It's hard to say that, but I think you're right. So they're open. They have to be open to it. I don't think there's any question. So then the question becomes: is Jordan Love the guy? Now there was an article on ESPN.com quoting Mayock from the NFL Combine, and where Mayock said that what John Gruden asked the quarterback to do is, quote, mind-boggling. Article goes on to say Jordan Love has been linked to Mayock and Gruden at 12. If he gets past the Chargers at 6, quote, they're talking about taking a guy who can handle John Gruden's offense, can spit it out, has the intellectual capacity, the gigawatts to get all that, and then to translate it to Sunday. You watch the Jordan Love tape, and you can see there are things that they would like about him.
Well, I think first and foremost, guy, just his physical attributes before you even get into the actual throws. He's basically 6'4", 225. He's a good athlete. Like, he's your prototype. He ran a 4.7. He can move. And then when you factor in the arm strength, I'd say he has an above average arm. He's not Patrick Mahomes or anything.
Here, you'll like this throw while you're talking.
Yeah, I mean, you throw dimes, which he did 2 years ago when he threw 32 touchdowns, when he threw 6 picks. He was really good in 2018.
Yeah, you know what? The ESPN.com article, he had the 17 interceptions last year. Apparently, it was the question he had to answer with every team that he met. Why did he have the 17 interceptions? And I think one thing when you watch, even if you just watch his highlights, this throw stood out. It was a great throw. What's confusing to me is you watch that throw, he's got great arm strength. Some of his deep balls just kind of don't travel. It's weird. And maybe that's something that's fixable.
I'd say the scouts would hit you. He had offensive personnel turnover. The offense he was playing in was meshed together. Matt Wells, who got the job at Texas Tech, who was the guy that he had all his success with, was not only his head coach, but was his offensive coordinator. When he leaves, they tried to piecemeal an offense that wasn't his with the plays he liked, carrying over from previous years. Was a disaster. There's no way. I mean, a disaster relative to given what his standard of play was, what his numbers were. But I think in the NFL, guy, and I've seen it happen firsthand, and we see it happen every year, these teams, if they can justify a bad game, a bad season, they can throw it out. And they can say, well, we go back to this specific season, these games when he excelled, we can get that out of him.
Yeah.
Bill Walsh was famously, tell me what he can do well, and I will coach him up on what he can't do well, and we will create a good player. And it can't be argued that this guy's physical attributes, you just got to watch a couple highlight plays. It's easy to see why scouts are going to be very, very intrigued with this player, right?
Yeah. It's been funny to see. Somebody I read said his grade has been anywhere from first to third round. Well, if a quarterback's grade is first to third round, where do they usually end up?
First.
In the first. So if you're the Raiders and you think there's a chance with this guy, and that's really what this is, like Bruce Arians said in that ESPN.com article, that even if you know everything you possibly know about a quarterback, there's still 30% of it you just don't know. It's just there's 30% that you're just missing that you won't find out until you get the guy. If you've got the need or the desire for a quarterback, and we know that Gruden always does, regardless of who his guy is, and the Raiders also have something else, John, that would lead them to maybe, quote-unquote, take a chance on Jordan Love. They've got 2 first-round picks. They've got number 12, and they've got number 19. I'd be surprised if they could wait till 19 to draft him. If they don't take him at 12, the 49ers are sitting at 13, and you would think they would have a real incentive to trade back if all of a sudden teams start going, you know what, going up to 4 to get a quarterback was too much, but going to 13 we can do. If the Raiders want him, I don't know if they could pass on him at 12.
I think if Jordan Love, if the corona hadn't happened and he could have worked out for quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators, I think the buzz on him right now would be so high. I think the Raiders are going to be in position to draft this guy at 12. I do think there's a chance he would be there at 19 too, just because there is some unknown with this guy's draft process, because he would be a guy that would have really risen. Like we have seen, and he was such a hype guy, Justin Herbert, for so long, that the hype on a workout wouldn't have changed the hype on him that much. Where I think with smaller school guys, if Gruden and Mayock were to remember famously when Trent Baalke and Jim Harbaugh, almost said John Harbaugh, drove to Nevada and played catch with Kaepernick,
yeah.
And you just realize And that happens a lot during this time. You get your hands on quarterbacks. They get to throw live. They get to throw your routes. That it might have given this guy huge buzz where he might go in the top 10, where now the Raiders might be looking at, well, we're going to get value here. And here's the other thing, Guy. If you did take him, you have Mariota as a highly paid backup / he could start right away, and you could trade Derek to get a second-round pick.
Do you think Kaepernick would have ended up in the first round in 2020? Maybe not this quarterback group, but I just mean in because he was a second rounder then.
High second rounder, yeah. I think he would have been.
But no one knew. People were like, the pistol offense. What is that? Right? It was like
a lock first rounder.
Right.
Now.
So if that's the case, now he's physically, I think, more skilled. I shouldn't say more skilled. His raw talents are more impressive than Jordan Love's. His arm, right?
Bigger, stronger, faster. Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I'm with you. And you said you go back, you watch. What do coaches love? Scouts love. You like to watch them against good competition. You go back and watch a good game he had as a sophomore against Michigan State, and then he has good answers for why he threw interceptions.
But also the conference was better 2 years ago when he's playing like Fresno State and Boise State. Like, he was really good. He was just one of the better. You'd probably call him one of the better small school players in the country 2 years ago. Like a guy that just would have been on NFL radars. Clearly, when scouts went out this year, everyone was locked in. And then it kind of fell apart, and then you had Burrow excel, Tua and Herbert were already there. I don't want to say he gets lost in the shuffle, but if he had doubled down on those numbers, I think we'd be talking about this guy. Let's say he had gone the same numbers back-to-back years. I think he'd be in the discussion to be the second quarterback off the board, Guy.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's where I think that Gruden could just – like, how am I going to beat Kansas City? That to me is the conversation him and Mayock are having 24/7. How can we get to the point where if we build up the team around our quarterback, we can beat Patrick Mahomes? And I'd say based on the evidence we have right now, Derek cannot. And he also struggles to play outdoors, which to me is a big red flag. They're not playing in a division where they got 3 domes. They're playing in a division where they got Denver and Kansas City, and historically they always play those two teams on the road. It feels like Kansas City and Denver always come the first half of the season.
They do historically play them on the road. You mean late in the year?
I mean, historically late in the year. I mean, historically, like, they play Kansas City and Denver, especially in Derek's tenure, early in the season at Vegas, Oakland, wherever they're fucking playing. And they play those two teams. It's cold, and he struggles. So Jordan Love, at least, is used to a cold weather environment, right? It's cold in Utah. He plays there. He's used to it in the offseason. I think there was some translation.
So I have to tell you one other thing. I do think after watching both of them, Derek Carr's NFL tape, his highlights, I should just say highlights, better than Jordan Love's college highlights. But the answer to that is simple, right?
Derek got a max contract, guy. I mean, he's made some plays.
One of them's making a lot of money, and there's a difference in age. Like, Gruden's worked with one of them for 2 years and doesn't. The other one is endless possibilities.
I was expecting when I was looking at his age to see a guy that's probably 23 years old, going to be 24. Guy, he turned 21 3 months ago. He's going to be 21 the majority of his rookie season in the NFL. Yeah, I see. How old's Justin Herbert? 23 years old. What's he, a fifth-year senior?
Fourth year.
He was because he started true. So he'll be 23, I would imagine, this year. So I think that speaks to Jordan Love's upside and his potential, given how young he is. You can still, quote unquote, mold the player.
Yeah, I think it's a real possibility.
I do too.
And the fact that they have 2 picks in the first round makes it even more real possibility. And the other thing, did you say this on the video already, or did you say it to me earlier? That at 19, the wide receiver draft is good enough that the wide receiver they don't take at 12, when maybe they have the first or second shot at the best wideout, they can still get a good player at 19.
100%.
All right. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think about these possibilities and what the Raiders should do.
Like the video.